What's going on, everybody? Brad again. If you saw my video yesterday, then you already know what today is. That's right, Test Drive Tuesday. Alright guys, welcome to Test Drive Tuesday. And if you didn't see my video yesterday, let me explain. Every Tuesday moving forward, I'm going to be doing a video walking you through a test drive of a particular model car, whether it be a truck, whether it be a car, or an SUV. Either way, these videos are intended to give you more confidence and more information so that when you're in the market, when you're shopping, whether it be now or in the future, you already have your guns loaded walking into that store and you know exactly what to expect and what you're looking for out of a vehicle, making your experience that much more fast, easy, and transparent. Alright guys, so I'm going to dive right into it. What I have behind me is a 2017 Nissan Altima. I picked this vehicle because it's a very popular vehicle and many people can relate to it. Now I'm also going to be doing videos about a pickup truck, SUVs, crossovers, things like that. But today we're going to do this four-door sedan and walk you through what to look for out of a pre-owned sedan. Okay, so now I'm inside the vehicle, and the first thing you want to do is just start the engine and let it idle. So I'm going to go ahead and start that now. Oh. So what I'm listening for here is the engine idling. Now, I had to drive the vehicle to a different location from the store just for some peace and quiet. There's a lot of traffic. But in normal circumstances, you're going to be at the store and the car hasn't likely been started in maybe a day or so. Either way, it shouldn't be at operating temperature. Even if it is, that's okay, but ideally you want it cold. Why? Because oftentimes in a cold engine, the oil has settled to the bottom of the pan, and when you start the engine, you can really hear if there's any valve tapping or loose belts, loose pulleys, things like that. You can get a better idea of how healthy the engine is. And from here, after the engine has idled for a few minutes and gone through what I call the cold start, in cold starts, the engine turns on and it idles at rather higher RPMs. Once that's done, after it's cycled a few times, it'll drop to a lower RPM. Many of you know what I'm talking about there. This is when the engine is, in my opinion, fully prepared to begin driving. So while the engine is warming up, I'm going to step outside and walk around the exterior of the car and note any damage or paint flaws that are considerable when looking at the vehicle for purchase. Now obviously this is a pre-owned, so the paint's not going to be perfect, showroom quality if you will. So if you find minor scratches or swirl marks in the paint, those things can be easily corrected with a good wash and wax job. So I'm going to walk around now and see if I can see anything noteworthy. So I've got you turned around here and I want to walk down with you and show you what I'm seeing here. And I don't really see anything. You have things like this, that's just dirt. Likely it's rained and water from the road or something from a test drive might have splashed up, and as you can see, it's easily washed off. Those sort of things don't concern me. The things you do want to look for is around the wheel wells and the corners of the bumper. Oftentimes, if these things have been driven a little too hard, you'll see scuffs and scrapes where somebody's come out of the parking lot too fast, or maybe they've hit a speed bump too hard, and you'll see scuffs and things. This right here is likely from rocks and debris in the road over time. Then again, that's not a really big deal. Those are easily correctable, especially somewhere like that. That piece right here is plastic, and something I would do, and you don't have to do this, but my personal preference is I would find some bed liner or some undercoating for a vehicle, and I would just spray this whole piece right here black, just the inside of this white trim. That way, moving forward, you don't have to deal with any more chips or anything. Now you see right here there's rust on the rotors. That's not a really big deal either, simply because the metal that these rotors are made of, it's really tough metal. It's not stainless steel. these things have to deal with a lot of cooling and heating and things, and so it's typical for these things to rust. Now, as you drive them, the brake calipers will rub the rust off of them. So that's not something to worry about. What you do want to look for is take your finger and rub up and down the rotor on the side right here where it makes contact with the brake pads. And what you're looking for is grooves, kind of like a record. If you remember the old records, if they've got grooves in it like that, depending on how deep, that's something to note as well. If it's really heavy cut-in grooves, it's time to replace those rotors. Minor little bumps and grooves are okay, but it's something to keep in mind when purchasing the vehicle. Those rotors would need to be replaced before too long. Anyway, so going down this side of the body again, I'm not seeing anything that stands out. I see something like this. If you look really closely, there's a pin right there, and those things easily pop out and easily pop right back in. And I'm not a body guy. I don't have the tool to pop that back in, but that's an easy fix, nothing to sweat about. It's not going to affect the function or the cosmetics of the vehicle. Something else to note with all the tires is check the meat, check the tread. If it's got worn out tires, also make note of that. If it's got fairly new tires, well, that's obviously a good thing. Less thing you have to worry about moving forward. Now, everything up here looks pretty good. You might notice a rock chip or something. I don't see anything. I don't see anything like around here. It looks pretty good. So this vehicle doesn't look like it's been driven all too hard. So now that we've seen that, here, let me move my hand out of the way. Now that we've seen the exterior of the vehicle and we're confident that at least the paint and cosmetics look okay and the brakes and tires are at least acceptable, they're not bad, the tires are fairly new and the brakes are in good condition. So now we're going to go inside the vehicle. Okay, so now that we're back in the inside of the vehicle, we've let the engine get up to operating temperature, and we've looked at the exterior as well as the tires and brakes, and everything noted is in acceptable condition. Okay, so from here you might think that once your seating position is where you like it, you just put it in drive and go. That's not the case, simply because I personally recommend that you always, instead of shifting straight to drive, go from park into reverse. If it's got a backup camera, make sure it's working properly. And from there, listen to the transmission. And do it a few times. Put it back in park, into reverse, neutral, and then into drive. Notice if you feel anything in the car, if it makes any weird noises, if it seems like it's struggling, whatever the case is, listen for abnormalities in the transmission that, even if you're not a car person, you can tell that doesn't sound right. So I'm going to do it again. Back into park. That's reverse. Backup camera comes on. Neutral. And drive. Everything sounds great to me. I don't notice anything abnormal. You may feel the car shift a little bit. It's simply because the transmission is going from reverse, neutral, or drive. And it's gonna, the transmission's ready to go. Obviously, when you let off the gas, automatics will begin rolling on their own. So that's nothing to worry about if you feel the car shift a little bit. It's loud clunking and whining and grinding noises that you want to listen for. So from here, I'm already in drive, although I need to go ahead and buckle up. So from here, you want to take the car on 3 different roads. The first being city. There's no particular order, but I'm going to take it in the city for a little bit. And the city roads look like stop and go, stop signs, and frequent stopping and going on short distances. So that's the first we're going to do. And what I'm noticing, what I'm looking for in this is brakes. I'm feeling for the brakes. I'm feeling the engine acceleration, the suspension, and you want to see if there's any abnormalities with, are the brakes squishy? Do they scrub? Scrubbing being there's a grinding noise when you hit the brakes. You're also looking for a delay in the gas pedal. If you hit the gas and you don't really get any response, if the car idles harsh while it's in drive, sitting at a red light, things like that you're wanting to look for. And I'm sitting on top of a hill here, and I don't want to take the right on red because I can't see below the hill. The last thing I need is to pull out in front of someone. All right, I've got the green light. Let's go. So that's door locks there. That's something to note. As you notice things, make mental notes, or if you write things down, write it down. Right off the bat, I'm listening for road noises. I'm listening for tires. I'm listening to everything. Down these roads, especially if they're harsh roads, if they're not in really good condition, hit those potholes. I mean it. You got to test the suspension, and if you hit a pothole and the whole car just, you know, let's look into that, see what's going on with that. Notice anything abnormal when you hit potholes or when you're driving at any point. If you've got someone in the car with you from the store, a salesman or someone, a staff member, ask them about it. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and it's okay to be mistaken. If something you feel like that doesn't sound right, or what's wrong with that, it could be completely normal. If you hear something beep, nowadays many vehicles have driver assistance features that aid you with lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring. So there's beeping and things that happen during your driving experience. So don't be alarmed. Just simply ask questions. This is a fact-finding mission, if you will. You're looking at the facts, you're looking at the evidence in front of you on whether or not, in your opinion, this is the right car for you. Now, I've gone through a couple of red lights now. Well, green lights. I didn't run any red lights. Went through a few traffic lights, stopped, went. Everything as far as city driving seems normal. Now, one thing to note is it's getting a little dark out. The sun's gone down, and I want to make sure you're driving, make sure your headlights are on, which mine are. A lot of vehicles, especially newer ones, have auto feature where your lights cut on and cut off on them by themselves. So now that I've gone through the city, I'm going to get off on a curvy road, a back road if you will, and just experience the car's handling around tight corners and winding roads. Okay, so now that I am on a back road, if you will, it's not really a back road that I would ideally choose, but I don't want to take this thing 30 minutes out of the way just to put it on a back road. The idea behind what you're doing here is getting a feel for the steering, how the car turns, how precise your steering feels, braking, and how it handles under quick maneuvering, if you will. Now there's a road right here that I like to go down with some of my other test drives when I'm with a customer. I like to use this one because it's got a good balance of straight, curvy, yet smooth enough roads that it doesn't scare you to take a corner a little quickly. All right, so we're not gonna go too fast. Honestly, 35, maybe 40 at most. If it's a residential area, 25 to 30 is plenty. And that might even be too fast for some areas. Just gauge it yourself. Don't be unsafe. But let's see, we'll watch for the pedestrians here. Got a cute little doggy. So anyway, we're going over a few bumps. I like to hit those. Like I said, don't be afraid to hit them. Now, if it's a giant pothole that might damage the front end alignment, obviously steer clear of that. But the idea is, again, to test the car out, put it through its paces. So I'm going through a curve here, and the car handles really well. The braking application, slow down a bit here, come off the brake, give it some gas up this hill. Perfect. The steering, it's not jerking me, trying to correct itself, or maybe a wheel is out of alignment, so the steering wheel might start, it might fight you. Okay. So obviously, if the steering wheel is, wobbling back and forth, or maybe the car starts acting funny around a corner, that's something to note. But this one right here, the steering's smooth, it's precise, the braking is smooth, there's no catch points. Actually, that's a good thing to mention, is when you apply the brakes, note if you hear any skipping. Like if you hit the brakes and the car is just like stuttering as far as braking, then that's something to note as well. Like I said, ask questions. If you want to save all your questions for after the test drive, then that's always a good idea, or you can ask questions as you go. Okay, so now we're going to take the car onto the third type of road, which is highway, or at least an open road that's got a higher speed limit than 35, maybe 40. And this is where your listening really comes in. You never really quit listening on the test drive. And so, me personally, I'm really silent on test drives. I'm listening to everything. I'm using all of my senses. I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things. I hope I'm not tasting anything. The feeling, get a feel for the car, the braking, the acceleration, the steering. Okay, so now on the third type of road that I'm taking this car on is open road, or a highway ideally, but the road I'm on now is sufficient. And the idea behind this road is you want to get the car up to speed, at least 55 to 60, 70 is never bad, but just get it up to speed. And again, you're listening for how the car sounds and feeling how it performs, and seeing things, looking for really anything that's out of the ordinary or something that you're not expecting. So I'm gonna give it a second. I'm gonna stop talking for a second. I'm just gonna listen and get a feel for the car. Right now I'm doing 55. So at 55, I'm gonna be quiet and just listen. And what I'm listening for is roaring of the tires, listening for brakes. Are they scrubbing when I'm not even applying them? How's the steering feel? Sometimes in alignment, you'll never know it's out of alignment until you're up to speed. I've driven several trucks, and I'll cover this in the truck video, but several trucks, they'll drive fine at low speeds going through the city, curvy roads and things, but as soon as you get them up to speed, they'll start pulling to one side, or maybe they'll start wobbling the whole truck. It's not something you want to ignore, which is why I say take these things out on open roads. Now, for what I can see here, this car is solid. I don't have anything that would really make me question its durability and the kind of condition that it's in. Okay, so now that we've taken it through the city in the stop and go traffic, now that we have taken it through the back roads, and now that we have got it up to speed, we have a pretty good understanding of how this car drives and how it performs. And anytime throughout this process you want to make notes, and now would be the time to start reviewing those questions. And if the salesperson's or the staff member's not with you, obviously you want to save those questions for when you get back. But if he's with you, and you haven't already asked questions, this would be a good time on the way back to begin your questions. Okay, so now that I've arrived, or I'm actually pulling in the store now, the driving portion, we're wrapping that part up, but the actual demonstration isn't over. There's only a couple more things that you want to do before you conclude the notes, if you will, on this test drive. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually using the backup camera. I'm checking my visibility and checking how easy it is for me to park the vehicle. So from here, the backup camera works well. The acceleration pedal in reverse feels fine. There's nothing that stands out to me about it. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and park it. I'm not gonna pull it all the way up just yet in the parking spot, but I'm gonna put it right here. And what I'm gonna do, and this is one of the last bits to do as well, is even though, all right, let's do this. Bam. Okay, so even though you're going to be driving the vehicle a majority of the time, even if you have a spouse and this is going to be a family vehicle, you're going to spend a significant amount of time driving it, or a comparable amount of time. But the next thing to do here is to check the cargo space and the passenger space. And what I mean is, set in the passenger seat. You want to look for leg room, the seat comfort. You want to adjust it and see, what features are available for the passengers. Get in the back seat. If you've got a sales associate with you, have him sit back there with you. And both of you sit back there and get a feel for the elbow room. So from there, you can understand what the passengers are feeling. If this is going to be something that full-grown adults are going to be sitting in the back, or maybe just children. Either way, it gives you a better understanding for passenger comfort. And that's something you want to note when buying a four-door sedan. Now, obviously, trunk space is another thing to consider when test driving a four-door sedan, or really a sedan either way. Now, for me, the trunk space is fairly large, and I don't typically use it. So for me, when I'm looking at a sedan, as long as it's got a trunk that's half the size of a Buick, that's plenty for me. Now, for you, it may be different, but you always want to pop the trunk and get a look for it. Also, you want to look for cubby spaces in the door. Note any trays or anything in the center stack. Cup holders, you want to look for the center console, see how much space you have there. Now, some of these are very obvious. You would feel like obvious things to look for, but just take a mental note that you're doing your due diligence and appreciating all the features the car may have. Like this one has a sunglass holder. For me, I don't really wear sunglasses very much, obviously, because I have glasses on. But I'm also noting the upholstery. I don't see anything wrinkled or coming off. The seams around the edges, the doors, the seals, everything feels solid. Now that we've checked everything, we've checked the engine warming up, the exterior body, paint, brakes, tires, everything is acceptable there. We've got into our seating position. The driver's seating position is comfortable. And we have put it in drive, reverse, neutral, park several different times, listening for the transition of the transmission. Everything sounds normal there. We've got it on 3 different roads: city driving, curvy back roads, and open highway, or just an open road. Everything sounds normal to us. Everything's acceptable. And now that we've backed it up, we've tested the backup acceleration and the backup maneuverability, the visibility, everything looks great and acceptable. Now it's time to park the vehicle and make note of everything. There's 6 things that I always note any test drive. And out of those 6 things, it's an acronym called SPACED. And I'm sure if you've been in the car business or know someone in the car business, it's an acronym that some people use. And it stands for space, performance, acceleration, comfort, economy, and durability. Those 6 things will describe a vehicle to you. And I like to use a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, 10 being the best. And out of those 6 criteria, figure out what sort of car you're getting. And that would give you an understanding of what you're looking for out of the car, and where this vehicle stands on par with that expectation. All right, with that being said, this has been the very first video of Test Drive Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed watching. I know I had a blast. And next week, we're going to be doing the pickup truck, where I'm going to walk you through what it looks like to test drive a pickup truck and what you should look for when test driving a pickup truck. And with that being said, like I said, I hope you enjoyed watching. I had a blast. And if you would like to see this car in person, this 2017 Nissan Altima, then feel free to message me, text me, or call me at my number. I'm going to put it somewhere on the screen here. And just reach out to me, and I'm happy to help any way that I can. With that being said, stay tuned for next week. Until then, take care, be well, and don't get mad, get Brad.